Hey guys, this week I want to share an amazing revelation about the nature of God, which is your new nature. You are so absolutely holy. You know, we work so hard trying to be holy. People wake up every day, must not sin, must not sin. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's like waking up in the morning, do not eat dirt, must not eat dirt. Why would you even want to eat dirt? That's not who you are. It should be harder for you to sin than to be holy, because holy is your first and primary nature. He's eradicated that old heart that was prone towards evil. It's like waking up in the morning. You know, I'm an American. I don't wake up in the morning, must be American. Do not be Ugandan. Do not be Mongolian. Must be American. American is just who I am. Holiness is just who I am. You know, in Philippians chapter 2, there's a verse. I'll read it out of the King James. It says, Jesus, being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God. Now, we look at that verse, we're like, what does that mean? Robbery? Has he got a ski mask on? Is Jesus the Hamburglar? I mean, isn't he already equal with God? Is this saying he's not equal with God? What does it mean? Okay, one of my favorite translations of this verse is in the Montgomery translation, and it says, he did not reckon equality with God as something to be forcibly retained. In other words, Jesus is not sitting up in heaven forcibly retaining his godship. He's not sitting there, must be Jesus, must be Jesus, do not be Satan, do not be Beelzebub, must be Jesus. No, it's just who he is. He is God, and holy, that's just who you are. That's your nature. Holy is your first and primary nature. But now look, I want to go back to this verse, and I want to look at some different angles on it, because it contains a powerful truth about God's nature. I want to look, again, this is Philippians 2. We're going to go through verses 6 through 8, and I want to read from some different translations. I won't name all the translations, but just follow with me here. It says, although he was in the form of God and equal with God, he did not take advantage of this equality. Although he existed in the form of God, he did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took a humble position of a slave and was born as a human being when he appeared in human form. He emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of man. In verse 8, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross. Now I want you to notice the point here. It says, although he was God, he emptied himself and became a man. So you see this difference going on, this contrast. It's like a paradox, like two opposite things. Although his nature is God, yet he poured himself out and became a man. It's almost as if he did something against his nature. Well, boys and girls, here is the kicker. While it's okay to use the word although he's God, he did this. And it's right that there is a sense of contrast. There's an even more powerful truth. The word although in this verse is better translated as because. Because he is God, therefore he emptied himself. This is telling us something about his nature. Because he is God. Of course, it is his very nature to love and to want to pour himself out. It is God's nature to empty himself for others. Because he is God, therefore he gives himself over. That is what an other-giving God of love does. He sets aside his full rights as God to pour out his life for us. So this passage is not so much about saying God did something contrary to his nature, but that he did something in full accordance with his nature. Now, this word For God's self-emptying, the word in Greek is kenosis. The nature of Jesus, the entire nature of the Trinity is kenotic. It is self-emptying, the self-emptying of God, the setting aside of the fullness of the divine power and glory that he could walk in. But kenosis is not just a one-time thing that he did in past tense, humbling himself in one single act on the cross. No, God's very nature, every day, all the time, is kenotic. He's the same today, yesterday, and forever. Because he is God, therefore he divests himself on others. It's his character, it's the essence of who he is. So the essence of the cross is not just something that he did, but something that he is. We can't just see the cross simply as an act he accomplished in time and space 2,000 years ago. The cross exemplifies the core attribute of God's nature. So that's why we're talking not just about the crucifixion as an action, but his cruciform nature. This is why we have to take the person of Christ and his actions as one whole. He embodied his nature on the tree. He showed us who he is. He displayed the substance of who he is as love incarnate. This is what cruciform means. Kenosis, cruciformity go hand in hand. His cruciform nature, his self-emptying nature, means that by looking at the cross, I am seeing the clearest picture of the heart of God that I ever will. His primary characteristic is selfless love. His nature is cruciform. The crucifixion is the nature of who he is, not a one-time act that was separate from his personality. And he didn't just die for people one day, but then change his attitude, and then when he comes back, he'll be in a different mood and want to destroy everybody. No, this is who he always is, okay? Let me throw in one more Greek word to the mix, and that word is theosis. Now, some of you know this word, you like this word. Theosis is this theological concept of us as humanity becoming gods or becoming godlike. And this concept of theosis is an ancient concept. It's a word that's still often used in the Orthodox Church today. The early church fathers, like Athanasius, Irenaeus, they were known for saying things like, God became man that men might become gods. We are born of an immortal, incorruptible seed. We are children of God. As he is, so are we in this world. Peter tells us we have become partakers of the divine nature. C.S. Lewis said, you have never met any such thing as a mere mortal. Look, you don't get this by climbing some unseen spiritual ladder or fasting more or praying harder or killing yourself. This is a gift that we mystically participated in his vicarious incarnation, death, and resurrection. We've been united with him, and we were made originally in his very image. God breathed his very life, breath, his very pneuma into Adam. We came from him, and now we are reborn of a divine spermata. Dogs produce dogs, cats produce cats, trees produce trees. What does God produce? You look just like your dad. But the question is, what does that divine nature look like? You have charismatics who for a long time have been scratching the surface of this subject because they like the supernatural. And so they think that participating in the divine nature means levitating every day or healing headaches at the shopping mall. Or what is the divine nature? Does it mean shooting lightning bolts out of your eyeballs or what? I mean, if we really are gods, then what does that mean? What does a god do? Should we be creating new solar systems? And you got plenty of people on the conference circuit who will fill in the blank for you. It means you fight warlocks and train dragons and spit rainbow Skittles out your backside. What does the nature of our divinity look like? Well, I have this crazy idea that if we want to know what being a god should look like, maybe we should, look to God. After all, you are participating in his divine nature. It didn't originate with you. You originated with him. So let's look back to our source, back to the rock from which we were cut. The divine nature looks primarily like this: cruciform kenosis. Your new nature is cruciform. Not talking about a one-time past tense action of the cross as a singular event. No, the cross as a demonstration of your very nature. You are a self-emptying, other-focused lover. This is where you find your fulfillment and your ecstasy. Jesus did not begrudgingly step into our world as if he didn't want to do it. He wasn't sighing and just doing his Father's will, just going down at the bequest of Dad to clock into planet Earth, leaving his air-conditioned heavenly abode reluctantly so he'd roll up his sleeves and get the job done down here. No, that's our idea of just suffering servant, melancholy Jesus. Let me tell you, stepping into the incarnation was always his passionate desire to become one of us, to purchase a bride, to pour himself out for her. He saw in the incarnation, he saw it as Disneyland, entering into Candyland. That's what it was like for him to join us in our exile. It was for the joy set before him. He endured the cross. I'm not saying that he enjoyed every beating and enjoyed every nail, but there was still this ecstasy, this blind, drunken running to the opprobrium of the cross. Our true divinity is most fully exercised when we lose sight of self and plunge our hearts into others. But in emptying himself, you have to see God was actually in character, not out of character, in a shockingly ungodlike manner, according to the normal but misguided human concepts of what divinity was supposed to look like out there in the cyberspace on the throne. Christ's condescension was both a contravention of his true identity, but also an embodiment of his true identity. By appearing in weakness, it contradicted what he could do, but it clearly embodied who he really was. It was an exercise of deity to empty himself of it. He could not have been God outside of stepping in and becoming one of us, because that is essentially what the nature of God is to do. What else could a good God do but to step in and rescue his creation? The early church father Athanasius says. He had always planned from eternity that he would fully identify himself with the human race. That is his nature because he is love. How does this apply to us? Well, instead of being super spiritual and always harping on our spiritual rights and pursuing our own spiritual advancement, I believe there's something of connecting with and enjoying humanity right here as we realize that the divine nature really means at its core to love and to pour ourselves out for others. In the next part of the chapter here, Philippians 2, we see the Father now elevating the Son to the highest place of honor with the name above all names. But we have also been very confused about this. We think that in exalting the Son, the Father is somehow like promoting Jesus to a new status, as if godhood was somehow earned by a process of self-humbling or deprecation. No, the Father is publicly vindicating and openly recognizing Jesus' self-giving act as the very proof and true display of the godhood he already had. Jesus' exaltation is not his divine reward for suffering and death. It is the divine recognition of his godly behavior. And now look, there are ongoing implications here. That his lordship has this paradoxical form of servanthood. Even in the present, today, forever. He doesn't eventually become some ham-fisted ruler, some tyrant. Again, the common evangelical perception, sadly, is this picture of a passive-aggressive Jesus. I mean, he was nice his first go-round, but when he comes back, heads are going to roll. He's going to take names. No, his permanent nature is servanthood. Not in a depressive way, but this is the very secret of joy and fulfillment in life. It is a paradox that in giving our lives to others, we find it. Don't equate servanthood with depression. Don't equate even suffering with depression. And this, my friends, this is what becoming godlike, or should I say expressing the divine nature, really looks like. It's not just popping a stigmata or having tea with Gabriel every other day or bragging about how many toothaches you healed on Facebook. Theosis, being godlike, is spending ourselves on the poor, on the broken, on the hurting. This is the God of power in weakness. Godhood, therefore, is relational, connecting to loving outside ourselves. God is cruciform. It's habitually his nature. The word crucified, again, may pertain to one past tense action, but there is continuity in his action and in his personality. We cannot isolate the cross to one particular event in human history, but it is a revelation of the shape of who God is and consequently of who you really are in your true self. You are a man of much greater integrity than you realize because you share that divine nature of other-giving love. In Christ's kenosis, we see not only what God is like, but what Adam or mankind is truly supposed to look like. The differentiation ceases to exist between the two. To be like Christ crucified is to be both like God and to be like a real human. Kenosis is theosis. It is divinization. Not a ladder of works, but a revelation of your true identity. We have been pulled into Christ's death to share in it as a continual participation. Not killing ourselves, but living out of the reality of faith that his death was our death. Therefore, his life is pouring out through our life, through us, in all of its sacrificial abundance. The cross is not just a freeing, past tense transformational act, but a continual identity that we've been permanently merged with him. And now his other-giving love is the full manifestation of my true identity. For the joy set before me, I give myself to others. I don't just think of justification and salvation as some past tense event. What I'm saying is that this is an experiential daily reality. I'm not saying salvation is a process. I'm saying that it's a glorious daily participation. There's a daily recognition of our death to the law, our death to that old sinful nature, our death to the world. And this is what our growth into the manifest likeness of God is. It's merely a recognition of our identity that manifests through daily participation, that we are already other-giving gods and therefore live like it. Paul did not die daily to kill off his old man, but he did consider himself daily dead, which drove him to such adventurous risk and unquenchable love to face danger on every doorstep for the sake of the gospel and mankind. He didn't consider that there was a Paul left to live for, and so he divested himself on others in ecstatic days. His co-crucifixion was not left in the realm of theological theoretics. He lived according to his death certificate. Justification, faith, holiness, divinity were not left as abstract, past tense, theological, legal positions that he held with God. They were the daily bread and source of life that flowed through his veins in tangible substance, real participation. He wasn't putting to death his flesh every day. He was recognizing that death to be a solid fact and therefore living accordingly. To really live is to live as a dead man. Love you guys. Bless you guys. We'll see you soon.
The Ecstatic Magazine is now available online for free. Visit thenewmystics.com to read and join our email news list to receive future issues. Connect, Drink Deep, our 3-day intensive schools are gatherings to plunge into the new creation realities of our mystical union with Christ. It's a marriage of paradigm-shifting grace theology with contemplative supernatural activation and impartation. Our upcoming schedule is limited, so find a location nearest you. Our only East Coast event for the year will be in New Jersey, September 12th through 14th. Our only Midwest event for the year will be in St. Louis, October 17th through 19th. All of our Ireland and UK friends should join us in Dublin, November 7th through 9th. My only event in Australia for the entire year will be in Brisbane, December 5th through 7th. This one's already packing out, so please register early. Our next Texas Mystical School will be in Houston, January 2015. I'll be in Basel, Switzerland for a school fully translated into German, February 2015. In March 2015, we'll be in Las Vegas. In April, you can join us in Fort Collins, Colorado. And now is the time to register to join myself and Dave Vaughn on our Ladyboy Love mission to the transvestites of Bangkok, Thailand. This one will be wild. This trip is in November, but applications are due with deposit this summer, so visit us online right away. And for a mission closer to home, we'll visit Mexico next spring, ministering to thousands from around the country. This is our most affordable mission trip ever, so sign up early to ensure your spot.
Place on earth with you.